Good morning or good evening, depending on what time you're listening to my speech. The topic I chose for my persuasive speech is on why people should support the Black Lives Matter movement. More recently, we have seen an increased number of protests and other events held in support of the movement, which have been displayed widely across the entire world through social media and the news. Support and unity comes from countries across the globe. These protests are held to demand justice for the Black lives taken from the quote-unquote justice system and its police. George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor were a few of the many people who were wrongfully murdered by police and civilians who tried to take a wrongful authoritative figure. The lack of accountability is astounding in these cases. Police are placed on paid leave and allowed to return to work within a month or two, and in some cases just a few weeks. People protested in the streets, demanding equality and justice for what the government has done to Black people not just for years, but for centuries. People deny the fact that Black men and women are still affected by slavery, including kids and young adults. Not only has it taken a more modern form in the shape of voter suppression, heavy police presence in Black communities, inequality in the workplace, and countless others, but people's parents and grandparents who are still alive today were directly affected by slavery and still suffer with the effects today. Slavery wasn't outlawed on January 31st, 1865. That was the day the government turned it into a different form of the same evil. They intentionally placed a loophole within the amendment specifically stating that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime. And this is when petty arrests started occurring at an extremely high volume. People were arrested for loitering, not having a job, or for made-up reasons, and at times no reason at all. Segregation was first implemented around 1865 and lasted until 1964. The start of it was caused by the ending of slavery. Since white men could not own slaves anymore, they came up with a new set of laws called the Black Codes. They were passed in 1865 and were intended to control Black people's lives from where they could work to where they could live. Following shortly behind the Black Codes were the Jim Crow laws. They were a more strict set of rules set to control where Black people could go, such as parks, pools, jails, schools, etc. And if Black people violated any rules that the government had put in place, they would use the 13th Amendment to jail them and take away their freedom once more. In 1875, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives and Congress passed a bill prohibiting discrimination in schools, public transportation, and churches. The bill was loosely enforced and overturned by the Supreme Court 8 years later in the year of 1883. In 1896, during the Plessy v. Ferguson case, the Supreme Court unethically ruled that segregation was in fact constitutional. This also created the idea of sever but equal, which is a way to give people a small taste of what they deserve as a basic human right, while still being able to implement segregation throughout the country. These topics are very broad and informational, so I do not have enough time to go over all the history and what the government has done to the Black community. But I say that to say this. The reason people should support the Black Lives Matter movement is a matter of supporting basic human rights. We as white people are born with human rights. The Black community's rights are purposefully limited to benefit the desires of the oppressor. If you don't support Black Lives Matter, you don't believe in human rights and equality. Black Lives Matter does not mean that other lives do not. It means that people attempt to make it seem as though Black lives do not. All Lives Matter is a protest to the demand of basic human rights that are desired by the movement. All lives will not matter until Black lives do. The simple fact of the matter is that people are treated differently because of the color of their skin, and while it is ridiculous as it sounds, that is the reality that we face. I'm asking you to support the demand for equality and human rights because human rights are not humane unless everyone has them. A woman by the name of Jane Elliott asked the following question to a group of white students. If you, as a white person, would like to be treated the way Black people are in this society, stand. No one stood. She goes on to say that nobody is standing. That means very plainly that you know what is happening. You know that you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're willing to accept it or allow it to happen to others. This is a great point because it's a physical representation that people do not understand, or they do understand what is happening, and they know that they do not want it for themselves, but are silent when it comes to defending others with a clear and purposeful intent. To be silent is to side with the oppressor. While being silent is wrong, it is also wrong to overstep when supporting Black Lives Matter. It is also wrong to speak over or for a Black person when you are not Black yourself. The job of white people in this case is to support the black community by signing petitions, raising awareness of current events to other white people in a respectful manner to the black community, and educating themselves as well. It is not our place to form our own opinions regarding the problems of the black community. There is no such thing as allyship when it comes to Black Lives Matter. It is either the belief of human rights and equality or racism and selfishness. Most importantly, we need equality for black women. They are the most disrespected person of the human race. They are put last when it comes to jobs, medicines, schooling, etc., and it needs to end. The world would be a very different place. Shirley Jackson invented numerous things in the telecommunications field, like the touch-tone phone, portable fax, caller ID, call waiting, and the fiber optic cable. Mary Van Britton Brown invented the home security system. Countless other black women have created thousands of things that we use day to day, and we take it for granted because we do not even realize it. So I ask you, will you support the Black Lives Matter movement, or will you stand by and be the cause of the black community's suffering that is forcibly placed on them, knowing that you have the power to end it? Let's bond together, and together we will change the world. For my visual aid, I have my Howard Pride mask, which is an organization at our school that advocates for the success of young black male students. They relentlessly work every day to ensure the success of their students with tutoring, emotional support, constantly monitoring grades, to apply assistance, and many other services. Howard Pride is not just a program, it is a family. It is a family that loves and supports one another. Howard Community College supports their students, their community, and beyond. Let's show some pride not just in our own community, but the entire world, and aid in the fight against racism and injustice. We can do this by signing petitions, emailing our local representatives demanding accountability, educating ourselves, and being open and apologetic to others when we are corrected. Thank you all for your time, and have a blessed day and a great Thanksgiving.